This section we're going to be talking about this session is going to be involving social emotional learning. Again, I'm Doug Smith from Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being with us today. So today's kind of talking points for this afternoon will be social emotional learning. What is social emotional learning? Why is social emotional learning uh, something that we should include in our school settings? What are the five core social emotional competencies? And then some resources, and then we're going to have just a wrap up question and answer if you have any thing that's not been addressed. So social and emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. That is according to CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. A social and emotional learning is a process of developing self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for work, school, and life success. The importance of SEL, there's 13 reasons that SEL instruction is important. First one is develop a student's self-management. Teaching children to control their emotions and behaviors will allow them to see increased success in new or challenging social and academic situations. Boosting students' social awareness increases a child's capacity to interact with others in a way that shows respect for their ideals and behaviors and recognizes her or his impact on them and decreasing instances of bullying. Improving relationships promotes consistent performance of socially acceptable actions and will help students maintain positive connections with others. Promoting student self-awareness helps a child understand his or her strengths and areas for growth and will allow them to take ownership of their own self-improvement. Encourage goal-directed behavior gives a child a better understanding of success and failure and will increase their persistence in completing tasks of varying difficulty, which leads to a growth mindset. And further, personal responsibility instills in children the tendency to be careful and reliable in their actions while ensuring they are successful both in their individual tasks and in contributing to group efforts. To foster decision making, this is a child's approach to problem solving will teach them how to use information from their own previous experiences and how to use their values to guide action and to learn from others and to accept responsibility for their decisions. Stimulating positive attitudes infuses more positive attitudes toward oneself, others, and tasks, and can result in higher self efficacy, confidence, persistence, and empathy, connection and commitment to school, and a sense of purpose. Reinforcing optimistic thinking boosts a child's attitude and positive thinking regarding himself or herself and their life situations. And this can have a huge impact on the decisions they make in and out of school. Increase academic performance. Receiving SEL instruction increases academic achievement scores. This is on an average of 11 percentile points. Improve attitudes and behaviors. SEL instruction shows to provide students with greater motivation to learn, deeper commitment to school, increased time devoted to schoolwork, and better classroom behavior. Decreasing negative behaviors, and SEL instruction leads to decreased disruptive class behavior, noncompliance, aggression, delinquent acts, and disciplinary referrals, and reduce emotional distress. SEL instruction leads to fewer reports of student depression, student anxiety, stress, or social withdrawal. So the five core competencies of social emotional learning are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So we're going to look at each of these core competencies and we're going to briefly discuss what they are, give a brief definition, and briefly talk about the importance of what skills that need to be taught or what skills are associated with each of the core competencies. So the first one we're going to be talking about will be self-awareness. And this is the ability to accurately assess one's strengths and limitations and have a well-grounded sense of confidence, optimism, and a growth mindset. In other words, it's the ability to understand oneself. And some skills to teach during this core competency are identifying emotions, accurate self-perception, recognizing strengths, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. In identifying emotions, it's important that students be able to recognize and identify emotions. In order to be aware of their own emotions and participate in activities that address those emotions, they must first be able to label them. There, you have to provide them with that vocabulary for the to help define and help them understand what emotions they are going through and what emotions they are feeling. Accurate self-perception, it's necessary for one's perception of self to match reality. It's important for students to be reflective and open to feedback in order to develop a true sense of self. A realistic understanding of themselves will allow students to better manage their behavior. And we talked earlier this morning about some of those inappropriate thoughts or negative thoughts and cognitions that the world was always out to get them, and we got to help them increase and or improve their self-perception. We need to also teach your students how to recognize the strengths that they have. We each have unique strengths, and we need to recognize those strengths and build on those. An important piece of social emotional health is a focus on positive attributes. Also, self confidence. When students are able to recognize their strengths, then their self confidence always also grows. And self efficacy is they should be able to have the belief that they have an ability to achieve a goal. And then suggestions believe that if you're capable of something, if you believe you're capable of achieving a goal, you'll help yourself on the path to achieving it more in a more positive manner. So next section we want to talk about is a little bit about self-management. And self-management is the ability to successfully regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations. Effectively managing stress, controlling impulses, and motivating oneself is part of self-management. And then the skills to teach are listed here as well. Impulse control relates to the ideal of delayed gratifications, the ability to distract oneself from a desire in order to delay that impulse, the ability to not act on an immediate impulse, but rather delay the action for a period of time. Stress management is important because having a solid foundation of self awareness will allow students to determine when they're stressed so that they can implement practice strategies with more success. Remember, we talked about implementing different coping strategies for when our students are met with stressors. So we need to teach our students these coping strategies that they can implement and can use when they meet these stressful situations to help them be better prepared and help them to have a more positive outcome. Self-discipline requires an individual to control one's feelings and impulses, also known as willpower. Self-discipline allows us to ignore other stimuli in order to focus on the goal at hand and follow our plans despite distractions. Goal setting is when students tend to find more success when they're working toward an individual goal. Organizational skills can refer to the organization of physical space and materials, mental pictures and information, and time. So keeping our work areas uncluttered and putting materials in a neat and orderly fashion and organized manner for easy access allows for more productivity and more work time, and filtering information to be relevant to the topic at hand with a clear big picture can help us stay on track in achieving our goals and improving our own self-management. Next topic that we want to briefly discuss would be that of social awareness. And the social awareness is the ability to understand social and ethical norms for behavior and recognize family, school, and community resources and supports. So with the situations that are going on within our state, within our country right now, I think this is a one of the, I wouldn't say the most important, but I think this is a very important social emotional skill to teach our students because of the protest, because of the uh, just different things that are going on right now. Just teaching the kids how to take a different perspective on the situation. What's the old saying? Walk a mile in someone else's shoes. You just put yourself in their shoes and try to look at things from a different light, different perspective. So with perspective taking, look at and understand a situation from an alternate point of view. Also with empathy, it's the ability to understand and share feelings of another. Appreciating diversity, as students should learn the value and recognizing that each individual is unique and each individual has unique strengths, and each individual is unique and different in race, creed, gender, sexual orientation, or belief, and it should be celebrated rather than ignored or argued. So just providing those to appreciate diversity. And then respect for others. Respect requires students to view the world with an open mind and ask questions rather than make judgments. Students are asked to treat each other with kindness and curiosity rather than hatred or prejudice. So, relationship skills refers to the ability to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships with diverse individuals and groups. Skills that you need to teach in this area are communication, social engagement, relationship building, and teamwork. Communicating clearly is effective communication requires the use of verbal and nonverbal skills to express oneself. Communication not only involves speaking clearly and conveying ideas appropriately, but also understanding body language, facial expressions, and gestures that can contribute to accurate delivery and perception. Listening well is active listening depends on the ability to consciously make the effort to hear and comprehend what the other person is saying and respond appropriately. This includes appropriate eye contact, regulating thoughts to limit distraction, using facial expressions, and providing oral responses. Cooperation with others is becoming active members working toward a common goal. Cooperation requires that students be flexible, have an awareness of self and others, and take turns, respect each other's thoughts and opinions, and listen well uh, to others, and practice effective problem solving. Working in a group, working in a small group, large group, just being able to work together and cooperate with each other. And they should be able to resist inappropriate social pressures, don't engage in unwanted, unsafe, unethical behavior. Being able to negotiate is being able to mutually resolve a conflict by addressing the needs of all concerned, not just one student. And when you negotiate, you work together to determine what's best. And we need to teach our students how to work together, how to negotiate, and how to come to a mutual agreement on an answer to a situation. Seek and offer help. Uh, we need to teach our students that they need to know how and when to ask for help, but we don't need to help them so much that we create that learned helplessness where we're providing them with that support and that structure all the time. We need to let them learn how to know when they need help and how to ask for that help. And we as educators need to know when to step in or when to step back a little bit and let their students try to work through things and figure out ways to handle situations appropriately. Our next social emotional competency would be responsible decision making. This is the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions based on ethical standards, safety concerns, and social norms. All aspects of a potential decision and its consequences must be considered before a choice is made. Students need to learn how to evaluate the situation, analyze their options, and consider the potential consequences of each of these options for themselves and others. And some of the things that we will look at as far as skills to teach how to identify a problem must be able to accurately identify and recognize when they've encountered a problem. And problems can range from difficulty meeting expectations in a classroom or to choosing whether or not to do their homework or even decided to engage in unhealthy behaviors. It's important that students are able to appropriately identify and acknowledge when they are faced with a problem. So, analyzing situations, students must learn how to analyze a situation from a variety of angles, and which includes identifying how and why the problem arose. As far as solving problems, after students have sufficiently identified, analyzed, and considered the problem, They then need to develop and practice methods for solving problems. They need to identify possible options and explore the potential consequences of each option. As far as ethical responsibility, in addition to the natural or identified consequences of a decision, students must also consider any ethical or moral obligations they may feel or be held to. The student will need to consider the potential ethical and moral repercussions of their solution or their decision making. And then they must also evaluate and reflect. Take time to evaluate how successfully they identified the problem, they analyze the situation, how successfully they come up with a solution to the problem, and what they did, was it effective? Did it provide them with the appropriate outcome? And also, they should be able to reflect back on this process and determine how to make necessary changes and to work and incorporate those changes into the next decision making opportunity. So I thank you all for your participation. Like I said, my name is Doug Smith. If you need to contact me, it's doug.smith@hazard.kyschools.us.